You guys must be thinking that I don't actually detail for a living, so you've asked for some actual detail videos and some detail footage, so I'm taking y'all to work with me tomorrow. I'm just getting stocked up right now on some chemicals. Tomorrow I've got a full interior, exterior detail on a sedan along with extraction. So I'll take you through that whole process of how I do that and get you some footage of the full interior, exterior, and the extraction. So we'll see you tomorrow morning. I'm getting all stocked up now, so I don't even have to think about it because it's a nice early appointment. And yeah, take you on my full day tomorrow. What a dirty van. How embarrassing. So all of my clients book online and they book their own packages. So I don't really know what I'm going into when I show up at my appointments, but this is a Subaru Outback. And as you can see, it's not bad, but it's a little bit of a disaster. And the client informed me, she's like, I am so sorry. My 10-year-old nephew is in here all the time and he spills things all the time. And he told me just yesterday that he spilled iced tea. So yes, there's quite a bit of iced tea. There's some dirt. And as I start to dig deeper into this detail, I realize there is a lot of dog hair. This client does clean their vehicle, so it's not horrific, but there's definitely some dog hair hidden deep down in all of those areas that a typical person that owns a vehicle and vacuums their vehicle on the regular, they just can't reach those areas. So we are dealing with some dirt, some dust, some dog hair, and quite a bit of spills, which is why she booked that extraction. So the very first thing I'm going to do is just go through an air compress and Tornador and vacuum up all the loose dirt. Then I'm going to go through and I'm just using the PNS 3-step system. This is what I use in all of my extractions along with steam. So I'm using the PNS Terminator to break up any stains and proteins that might be there. Then I'm going through with the Carpet Bomber in steam, and it is cleaning up really well. I always like to do the seats first because one, they're going to dry. So that way by the end of the detail, the car is a lot more dry than it would be if I did them later in the detail. But also secondly, it allows it to dry so I can see if there's any missed spots. Because I don't know if you guys have ever gone through as a newbie and detailed and done extraction or stain removal. And then by the end, you're like, oh my gosh, it dried. You have everything put away and there's still a spot there. So I want to start off doing all of this first, use that steam, use the products, the chemicals to break everything up, give it the opportunity to dry, and then if absolutely necessary, I can go back through and spot clean at the end of the detail. After I have applied the chemicals, I'm kind of letting those sit for a bit. I've applied some steam to help break up some of those proteins. I'm then going to go through and drill brush, and that is really going to help agitate and bring some things to the surface. Now, here's the thing with detailing. I am not an extraction expert and I don't use a legit, extraction machine. But when it comes to detailing, it's not so much the process. Like, there could be a better process. Yes, I'm not saying there isn't. I'm not saying I'm an expert. But at the end of the day, the goal is to get the client the results that they want. It doesn't matter how you go about doing it, how much time it takes you, or if there's a better way. Sometimes you just have to work with what you have and the knowledge you have and just get through the process and just make the client happy. So once I've drill brushed everything, I'm going through and using my Happy Tree extractor head with just a little 1 gallon shop vac. I love this little setup. It works perfectly, and I do have the Happy Tree head linked. The smaller one is the recommended one. I accidentally bought the bigger one the first time, and it's way too big. So I recommend getting the small Happy Tree extractor head. So everything is coming out really good, and I went through this process a couple times, especially you could really see that dark, that's the iced tea coming out. And I applied some more steam, just adding in that liquid, the moisture really helped to start to bring everything to the surface. So I did this process until there was no dark coming out. Then I went through and I also took a microfiber towel to dry things up a little more. There were some tougher stains in this upholstery, so what I did is I took the Terminator and I applied it in a more direct manner. I rubbed it in with my finger, let it sit, then applied the carpet bomber, let it sit. I covered the head of my steamer with a microfiber towel and then just did a more direct steaming of the area with that microfiber towel wrapped around the head so it could kind of soak up the moisture while creating a little more agitation and get more of those stains out of there. So the very last step here is I went through again and extracted as much liquid as I possibly could. You can see in that crack there's still a lot of that iced tea spill sitting there. So I am just gonna keep on working at this just section by section. And if you guys have any tips, because this is a huge reason why I do this channel, is you guys are always coming at me with some of the best tips. And I love them and I use them and I apply them and I appreciate them. So if you have any other tips, I don't do a whole lot of extraction. This is probably only the second one I've ever done, but my clients are always happy at the end of the day. So I don't think I have any problems with my system, but I'm sure it could be better, possibly. I don't care how much studying you do. Sometimes there's tips you just never know about. But this is what that towel was looking like before starting the extraction, where I was like, oh gosh, there is a lot of liquid sitting in these seats. I just kept moving on and doing all of the seats in the same exact manner. The weather today is not great. It's raining, it's incredibly humid, and so I am doing my best to not put a whole lot of moisture into these seats or into any of the carpets or upholstery because I don't want that sitting there and not drying. But the driver's side floor mat and then one of the passenger side floor mats that had a tea spill were really, really dirty and definitely required some power washing multiple times. I had no choice but to go through and power wash those floor mats. And again, it's one of those things I do like very first in the detail because I want to make sure they dry. So I hang them to dry, I extract them. I'll hang them for another hour and come back and extract them again. But because it's so wet and humid, I want to get as much moisture out as I possibly can. As I started to make my way onto the front seats to see what we were working with, to see if we had any spills, I noticed all of this dog hair that was down the side of the driver and passenger seat. So that's going to be a fun project in this detail. Once all of the seats and floors were extracted as needed, I went through and just started vacuuming everything up. There's a lot of hidden dirt and dog hair in this car, so I know it's going to be a little bit of a process, but I'm going to do my best to clean it all up now, and then we'll do one final vacuuming at the end. I then go through, lately, this is like a new process I've been doing, and I just use Super Clean, and most of the door jambs of the cars I'm working on are filthy, like packed with dirt. So I'm going through and just doing an initial cleaning with a power washer and a drill brush. Not a drill brush, a detail brush using Super Clean. I use Super Clean on the initial cleaning of these really dirty door jambs because it'll break up a lot of that dirt and it's cheap. Detailers absolutely hate my guts for this process right here, but my clients love it. So, oh great, all you can see is my head. This is fabulous. But what I do is I go through and I take a metal dental pick and I get all of the very tight cracks and crevices. So many spills get caught in here. So old spills, dog hair, dirt, grime, it all gets caught in these tiny little cracks. And honestly, there is nothing that works better than a dental pick. And some people are like, oh, a toothpick does the same thing. If a toothpick did the same thing, your dentist would clean your mouth with a toothpick, but they don't. They clean it with a very precise metal pick, and it works so good in these details. Now, I don't recommend it if you're not careful. I'm incredibly careful. You can see all the moisture coming out of my air compressor because it is that humid. Our temperatures have been so extreme that so much condensation is building up in my air compressor, but can't do anything about it. But I go through, I do all of that. Sometimes I use an all-purpose cleaner along with a toothbrush to kind of scrub it out a little bit more, and then I also will go through and use either the air gun or the Tornador to kind of blast out the last little bit that's in there. Now, I certainly do not recommend this tool if you don't have a steady hand, if you aren't careful, nor do I recommend using it on a Lamborghini or a high-end car. But we're dealing with everyday cars where these clients are just like, get my car clean. I don't care what you got to do, get it cleaned. Nothing is getting scratched. Nothing is getting damaged. Never had an issue. I've done over 150 cars. So this is a process that works for me. It's not a process that's for everybody. And now I'm going to move on to some of the larger hard surfaces. So I take my Ninja scrub pad and spray. Lately I've been using Meguiar's all-purpose cleaner, and I was using PNS Express interior cleaner. And the only reason I switched over was because Meguiar's was so equal price, but diluted 1-10 versus diluted 1-1. So I was like, all right, let me try Meguiar's. And quite honestly, I really like it. It has a slightly different cleaning effect where it doesn't strip everything away as much as PNS Express. I think PNS Express is a great cleaner, and I could probably dilute it a little more. But just cost effective wise, the Meguiar's is a great cost efficient product, and it works really good. And it leaves like a little bit of a shine versus really stripping everything down. And the driver's side process is a little bit more of a nitty-gritty process because I am detail cleaning all of those buttons, everything in between them. I tend to use a super soft toothbrush, and it works really well. Just like barely put a little bit of product on it and give it a little agitation. It cleans those little buttons up. It cleans the levers really well. And lastly, I clean the gas pedal, brake pedal, and clutch. At this point in my detail, I move on to the exterior because I want to do all of the work that I need to do with my generator running and then turn that thing off ASAP, and I'll finish all of the things like dressing the interior and doing the windows after the fact when I turn my generator off. So this vehicle has got a lot of sap. It's sitting under that maple tree, and it is doing a lot of damage to the exterior and the clear coat and the paint, but it is what it is. So I am just working around that. It actually started to rain as soon as I started to do the bug removal, so I did not film that. But what I do is I go through and I inspect the vehicle, just kind of see what we're working with, see what kind of process I'm going to use for the cleaning of the vehicle. And there is a lot of dirt just sitting in all of the cracks and crevices of this car. Definitely going to go through and detail clean as much as possible. My very first step is I go through and I do a bug removal. And for that, I use Superior Dark Fury. And I remove all of the bug and tar as touchless as possible. And then I do the wheels. So that very first step that I'm doing with the Dark Fury, I'm going through all of the heavily tarred areas, the really dirty areas, the bug-ridden areas. So anything that's really caked onto that vehicle is getting removed with the touchless wash in that process. Then I go through and I do a really deep, intense power wash. I don't do a touchless foam cannon wash unless it's one of those vehicles that somebody truly cares for. I know this sounds awful as a detailer, but most of my clients care about their interiors and don't give a crap about their exteriors. So I tend to only do the foam cannon wash on those clients' vehicles that either have a ceramic coat or they're brand new or they're high-end vehicles. For these kind of everyday drivers where people really have never touched them a day in their lives, they just get a really good touchless wash with the Dark Fury, then get a really good power wash, and then I'll do just a 2-bucket wash method. Obviously not missing any of those details like the gas cap or all of the lights and the crevices, and I go through and I detail brush all of those areas. One final step that I've been doing for this last year is applying a sealant, and I am going to either change products or stop using this process simply because I've been using Geon Wet Coat, and as much as I love the product, I love the protection, I love the hydrophobic properties, as you can see, it's awesome. It's been leaving like a lot of chemical streaks on windows and on the hoods, and I have tried everything to avoid it and not get those streaks, and for the longest time I thought it was something I was doing or the soap I was using. Turns out it's that product. So for that reason only, as much as I love this product, it just doesn't end up with a visually good looking result. And it's kind of embarrassing as a detailer. So if anyone's here from Geon, let them know I love their product, but I can't deal with those streaks and they don't come off. I have tried everything. Nothing but time will remove them. So I am no longer going to be renewing this product purchase. And then I go through and I dry the entire vehicle, and I just use my Tornador to kind of blow out any of those crevices, the door handles, the lights. Works perfectly fine. I'd love a blower, but sometimes you just work with what you have, and space-wise, I don't have any more room for any more tools in my van. Now that the exterior is done, I'm going to turn my generator off and do all of those final touches that I don't need my generator for. So I'm cleaning all of the exterior windows with ONR, and I'm going to clean all the interior windows again. I do them usually twice. Sometimes I do it with a degreaser if they are windows that haven't been cleaned, and then I'll go through and I'll clean them with Sprayway. But then I'm going to go through and also clean all of the door jambs with ONR one final time. So like I said, these were super dirty door jambs. So I find that when I do them first with a power washer and super clean, then I go through and I wash the exterior of the vehicle, there's still going to be moisture that's sitting in the door jambs that I have to wipe down anyways. So I do that final door jamb full wipe down process after the wash. And it's one of the very last steps that I do. Next, I am going through and doing the final UV protectant and dressing. So the product I've been using lately is Chemical Guys VRP. And you guys all recommended that because I felt like I was having like inconsistency issues with the Superior Aqua Gloss on certain materials in vehicles. But it turns out the VRP is doing it no differently. And honestly, I kind of like the Aqua Gloss better. So this is the last bit of the VRP that I have, and then I'm going to switch back to the Aqua Gloss. Main reason is I like the product better, I like the tire shine better, and it's more affordable. So I'm all about saving pennies and details when I can save pennies. I also noticed that the Superior Aqua Gloss had a lot longer lasting finish. So when I went back and would do my maintenance details, I noticed that the VRP would kind of wear off, where the Aqua Gloss 6 months later, a year later, was still there and shining. So I'm most certainly changing back to Aqua Gloss for those two purposes. I did do a final vacuum before I put the floor mats in, but I didn't record that. So this is our final result. Holy moly, what a transformation. Nothing drives me crazier than when I go through with the camera and I see a speck on a floor mat, but I'm gonna try not to be a crazy person right now. Finishing touches, gotta hit the top of those windows, and then I'm gonna roll the car forward and also do the final wheel dressing, so I address all of the wheels. And the very final thing that I do is I go through and I dress all of the black plastics with Aerospace 303 just to give it that extra little pop and the UV protection so it doesn't fade out anymore. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in this detail. We did a record detail of a 7-hour detail in 20 minutes. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and we will see you next time.